Society can be judged on how well it treats its most vulnerable, and we may be failing when it comes to our elderly. Hospitals in Canada are full of aging patients, thousands of them, who should be in long-term care facilities but can't get in. As you're about to see, it's a situation that can be devastating for families and overwhelming for our healthcare system. Here's Jennifer Tryon with Hospital Heartbreak.
It's an almost unimaginable scene. A baby, abandoned in the dark, crying, but nobody comes. This is the kind of image that provokes howls of outrage and brings government to its knees. Except it's not real. This, on the other hand, is. It's real-life amateur video taken inside a hospital in Mississauga, Ontario. This is disturbing.
It is disturbing.
And for Janice Cox, heartbreaking. Her husband, Derry, spent most of his last 6 months here, dying of dementia, neglected and tied down.
He's in the posy restraint. That kind of plaid thing is called a posy restraint, and then he's tied. You can see the ties down around the side, and he's been very drugged. You can see that he doesn't open his eyes throughout all of this.
It's hard to watch, but this is becoming more and more common in our nation's hospitals. What is a bed blocker?
A bed blocker is someone like my husband who's in a hospital, should not be in a hospital. There should be another facility for him. And he's preventing other people who need active care in the hospital from having a bed.
If you haven't heard of bed blockers yet, you will. Senator Sharon Carstairs chaired a special Senate Committee on Aging. She's been studying the phenomenon for years, and the numbers are astonishing.
15,000 beds are blocked in this country.
15,000 beds are blocked.
15,000.
What do you estimate that growing to?
Oh, I think it could grow easily to 25,000 within 5 or 6 years.
You would never let a baby sit for hours and hours with a dirty diaper, not being able to feed itself, alone on a bed in a room, crying.
And if we did, we'd charge the parent with neglect. But we don't charge the hospital or the long-term care facility or the home care system with neglect. But that's what it is.
That neglect was devastating for Janice Cox and her family, especially her son David.
I could personally work myself into a rage about what happened at the hospital. I mean, individually they put up a really good effort, but the system is just, it's not even broken because it doesn't even exist.
Trapped in healthcare limbo, the family could only watch, helplessly, as Derry deteriorated. But the man they remember deserved so much better.
We met in 1968 and married in 1970. He was, to me, a very intelligent person. And I think that's true when you are taking a degree in nuclear physics.
We're not sure about you. It might be the television.
This is the last video of the man they knew, entertaining everyone at a family reunion in 1997. Only 2 years later, everything began to change.
Well, I'd sorted through a lot of things and thought possibly Alzheimer's, because he was forgetting things. He wasn't able to follow instructions. He was not able to problem solve.
It took doctors a few years to figure it out, but eventually it became clear. Derry had dementia.
One day he came home and said he could no longer remember how to subtract. And when you consider that he has a master's degree in science, that was one of the saddest points for me.
How much to buy one of these?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Shake it up, down.
Janice fought for Derry for a decade before the disease took over.
So he began to be so confused that he didn't know what a toilet was, and he didn't know what the bathroom was.
He didn't know what the bathroom was, and Janice didn't know where to turn. With no spots available in long-term care, doctors told Janice the hospital was the only option. How do you even feel watching this now?
Oh, I feel sad. I feel sad that we got to the point where we had to put him there. We didn't know it was going to be like that.
Day after day, this was Derry's life.
One time I went in and he was sitting on a chair in a puddle of urine, which to me was not an indication that they were checking on him very often to see that he was all right.
She claims Derry wasn't being properly fed, bathed, or exercised. He lost weight. He was in severe mental distress.
We were having difficulties with nothing like this at home, for sure.
But bringing him home wasn't an option either, and there was nowhere else to go. Meanwhile, the hospital needed Derry's bed for patients who actually belonged there. They began to put financial pressure on Janice to move Derry to a long-term care facility, but there wasn't any available.
If he had been getting the sort of care that I thought he could get at a long-term care facility, I wouldn't have minded so much, but we had to pay.
For what?
I guess, I don't know.
Even though hospital care is free in Canada, Janice was forced to pay the same amount it would cost for a long-term care bed, $1,300 a month, but without any of the services long-term care offers. The hospital needed that bed so badly, she says, they even threatened to charge her $700 a day.
At one point in that 6.5 months, I just had to, felt I was like at the edge of the black hole.
Derry was finally transferred to a long-term care facility last fall. The difference was immediate and astounding.
He was moved on September 21st. And as I say, it was one of my happiest days in my life. I know I'm crying, but it was.
After 6 months in the hospital, Janice saw flashes of the man she loved. Derry even walked again.
I'm sure he felt better being there. I get very emotional about it. It was wonderful to see. It took such a weight off me.
But it wouldn't last. 2 days after Christmas, Derry died of pneumonia.
The major part of the grief for me is thinking about what not only the dementia did for him, but what those 6 months in the hospitals did to him. That shouldn't have had to happen. He shouldn't have had to go through that in the final year of his life.